Hello and welcome back to my channel. I'm Christy VANN with Fantastic Finances, and on this channel I teach velocity banking. I'm not a tax advisor, I'm not a tax attorney, I'm not a CPA, I am not a financial advisor. I am just going from experience with what I have learned in my own life situations, and I want to share with you. He has $385,000 in debt, so his income is at $7,677. and his total expenses are at $5,837, leaving him with a cash flow of $1,840. His mortgage is at $155,859. That would probably be the very last thing that we'll work on. For his rundown, I wanted to show him what a $15,000 line of credit would do for him, because at this point he does not have a line of credit. He's got a bunch of credit cards and then he's got a bunch of loans. Right now his DTI is too high and he cannot qualify for the first lien. The first suggestion I would make is with his $1,840, let's kind of do a Dave Ramsey style to start, and let's pay off these lower debts that he's got. The reason I would suggest that is that gives him his cash flow to start adding into that line of credit when he obtains one. That's what we're going for here, so knock down expenses, increase cash flow so that we can pay off debt. Now with the $15,000, I would immediately go over here if it was me and grab this $15,000 Wells Fargo that's got a $410 cash flow. That would really help to start working some debt down, right? So with the $15,000, if it paid off and he took the rest off, like I said, it'll take him a couple of months just to get these small things in order just using his cash flow. The $15,000 would pay off the rest of Wells Fargo. His income at $76.77 would go in. His expenses, and I figured the interest on the $15,000 at 20%, just so we have room for error. The expenses, the interest would come back out throughout the month, bringing him back up. He would do it again in month 2, put in his income, bring back out the expenses and the interest. Month 3, he'd do the same thing. And then in month 4, he would have his balance back down to where he could grab $6,000 on this IDCU. It's at $87.76. $6,000 would bring it down to $27.76 and would be working to pay that off. That would bring his balance back up to $14,014. Income number 4 would go in. His expenses and interest would come back out. Then in month 5, income in, expenses and interest out. Then we would pay off the rest of the IDCU. What does that mean? That means that increases his cash flow. It takes the $177 off of his expenses, which bring them down to $4,961. So in month 6, he does the same thing. His new expenses at $49.61 would be added back in. The interest added back in. Income number 7 would come out. Then we would go $49.61 for the expenses again. $157 for the interest again. I am charging the interest on the highest amount so that we have room for error at 20%. So it's at $157.07. And then guess what? In month 8, he's going to come in and he's going to pay $8,000 towards the LIEN club. Okay? So that brings that balance down, cuts the interest off a little bit of what he's doing there. Then he starts working again to start paying this off. So his income would go in, bringing his balance back down to $7,031. His expenses and interest would come back out. Of course, that brings your balance back up. It's a yo-yo. You're in and you're out, and that's the way. It's why it's called a revolving account. He would do the same thing with the expenses coming back out, the interest coming back out, and his balance back up to $97.25. So at $97.25.80, he would put in income number 10. His expenses and his interest would come back out, and then we would take $6,000, put it onto the LIEN club again. We're bringing that balance down quickly. His balance would go back up to over $13,000, but then in month 11, his income would go in. His expenses and interest would come back out. He'd be back up to $10,585, but then in month 12, his income would go in. Expenses and interest would come back out. Month 13, income in, expenses and interest back out, and then he would do another $9,000 pay into the LIEN club, which brings that balance down. He would then work it out, income in, expenses out, which means approximately 6 months, maybe a little less, he would do a payoff on the LIEN Club. And you know what that means? That $831 payment with the lending club turns into cash flow. Then he really works out the rest of his debt. He's worked 19 months. He will have paid off the lending club, Wells Fargo, Chase, the Vet, Capital One, Schwab, IDCU. Now by this time he should easily be able to get the first lien HELOC, probably before the 19 months. I just wanted to run this out to give him a quick example of how he could work his finances if he wanted to. I make suggestions, you make decisions. I hope that this helped you to see that even if you're loaded with debt and it doesn't seem like you have enough income to handle your debt, where there's a will, there's a way. And I know that he can do this. I'm confident that he wants to do this. So I just appreciate that he contacted me and allowed me to go through his finances so that I could see if I could make any suggestions for him. I would like to do the same for you. I have links below where you can contact me. I would be glad to talk to you. I'd be glad to do a whiteboard for you. I want to help. So I appreciate you joining me today, and I hope you guys have a terrific week.